Okay, folks, welcome to our April 2nd virtual policy and action update. It is really great to have, we've got 41 participants here. And if you are watching this following, we are so glad to have you join us as well. So let us get started. So I'm going to start with some federal updates. I thought there wasn't a lot, and then I was like, oh, there's a lot we got to talk about. So earlier this week, I'm sure some of you attended a webinar put on by the Small Business Administration regarding the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. This is the grant program that you used to know as Save Our Stages, which was the bill that became the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. So ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, added an additional, I believe it's 1.5 million to that program. So now we're around $16 million in money that's going towards that grant program. The big news is on April 8th, applications are going to be accepted, and there is no deadline. So it is on a rolling basis. But as you can see from my slide, I'm very clearly and loudly saying they have made it clear it is a first come, first serve. So here's how they're going to do first come, first serve. They are going to have a staggered review and award process with first, second, third, and fourth priorities. And so the first priority is folks that'll be taken up within the first 14 days is applicants who have had 90% or more revenue loss between April of 2020 and December of 2020. Then the next priority is 70% or more revenue loss between April 2020 and December 2020. And then 24 days after those first and second priorities are awarded, they will go with 25% or more loss for 1 quarter that if you compare between your 2019 and 2020 tax years. And remember, for those of us who our fiscal years are different than the calendar year, a tax year is January 1 through December 30th. It is not, for example, with Mass Creative, it is not July 1 through June 30th, okay? So that's when you're looking at tax years, that's the thing to compare. And it has to be the same quarter. So if you're looking at quarter 1 of 2019, you got to look at quarter 1 of 2020. And then finally, after all the other priorities are awarded, they're going to go back and they're going to look at awardees, grant awardees who have 70% or more loss for 1 recent calendar quarter and award more money. There are many pieces of this bill, and I'm not going to be able to cover them, program, and I'm not going to be able to cover them in this webinar. That's why we've put in the link, a link to the Small Business Administration's website, and they have a ton of resources, including a recording of the application conversation they had earlier this week, and other FAQs that they are updating with a great frequency. I think I mentioned this at the last policy and action update that we did, but I just want to remind folks that another big thing that happened with ARPA is that they made a language fix. So now, before the bill and the grant program was saying you can't get a second draw PPP and a shuttered venue operator grant. You just can't. They've changed that. What they've now said is you can apply and get a second draw PPP, and then you can also apply for a shuttered venue operator grant. But guys, you cannot do it in reverse. So if you get a PPP, a second draw PPP, you have to acknowledge that on your shuttered venue operator grant application, and whatever award you get from the shuttered operator grant, they will subtract your PPP second draw award. I'm using a lot of hand motions today. I hope they are helpful. But once you get that shuttered venue operator grant award, you cannot go and get a second draw PPP. That's really important, and it's an important note for everyone here on this call who is thinking about a PPP loan. I want to just direct some folks to a couple of other resources. So as I mentioned, there's the shuttered, the SBA webpage. They also have on that page a link to the application portal. even though they're not opening the portal until April 8th, what you can do is you can click on it and you can register yourself to get notifications. So again, if you're planning or thinking about applying, I would highly recommend doing that. The other thing is that on April 20th, the Small Business Development Center Network that's run out of Salem State will be holding a Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Review Program webinar. So I think if you want to get more details, they're a great resource. They also will do one-on-one sessions or TA sessions with you. So you can check them out as a resource. And then the other resource I wanted to mention is that the Arts and Business Council of Greater Boston is offering free 15-minute one-on-one sessions. And I know both of those resources, I've heard from folks who are trying to navigate this in Massachusetts that they found both of those resources very, very helpful. So that is the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant updates that I have. The other thing on the federal level that I want to just highlight is that there is going to be a return to earmarks, but they're calling them community project funding. And so basically every member of Congress has the opportunities to submit a community project to be funded in the appropriations process. There are extremely tight requirements for this. It has to be a shovel ready project. So this isn't like one day we think we might like to do, to build an extra wing to our building. It has to be like, we have an extra wing for our building. We have the plans for it. We're ready to go. We really need the money to make this project move forward. It has to have a clear and strongly communicated community benefit, and only nonprofit and governmental local or state governments are eligible. So it can't be for small business or for-profit business projects. The deadline that lawmakers have, members of Congress have, to submit their requests to the appropriations subcommittees is between April 14th and April 16th. So I've had a couple of people ask me a question, which is like, oh, we have something, what do we do? You want to reach out to your member of Congress's district office, and you want to ask to talk to a constituent staff member, and that will get the ball rolling. Most likely, they will connect you to whomever in that office is in charge of their arts and cultural portfolio, or is in charge of collecting the various requests for community project funds, okay? And then this is the moment where you want to be super concise. You want to be super clear about why you think this is a good idea and why it's a shovel-ready project. The other thing is just to set expectations. There are not going to be multi-million-dollar earmarks. There probably aren't going to be million-dollar earmarks. You got to think low. So this would be something if you're like, look, we have a potential match out there with a funder, or like we're so close to closing a gap. That's the kind of project that you should be talking to with them about that. Next, I want to do a plug for the Americans for the Arts National Arts Action Summit. And one of the reasons I want to do a plug is that a Massachusetts artist will be featured as one of the national speakers during the summit. Elise Patterson, who's the executive director of Ballet Rocks and the founder of Abilities Dance, will be speaking at the summit. So this is a week-long virtual summit where you have the opportunity to get trainings on different federal policy issues, opportunities to get trainings about how to talk to members of Congress, how to present your issues. It's a pretty great time. It's also a great opportunity to network, and it's free. So they have completely waived the registration costs. And then the next week, so that's next week is April 5th through the 9th will be the summit. And then the week after, I will be leading meetings for National Arts Action Summit participants with our Senate and congressional offices. So we've already got a number of meetings confirmed and lined up, and it's really, really helpful when we've got a nice robust group who can talk about the issues that are facing them and make the asks to the congressional offices. It's also really, really helpful when we have constituents that are in those congressional offices or congressional districts. So take a look. The nice thing is this year it's virtual, it's free, and you don't have to attend every single event, but there's a nice robust program there for you. Now let's talk about the state. So I think many of us are already following this. We talked about it in the chat about vaccinations, but there's sort of two big dates that are coming up. So the first one is on Monday, people who are 55 and older or people with only one certain medical condition will be eligible for vaccines. And then on April 19th, people who are 16 years of age or older will be eligible for vaccines. You can, if you go to the website, which we're putting in the chat box, you can see a full list of who currently is eligible. And one of the things I want to draw out is that educators are currently eligible. And what we're hearing is it's the K through 12 space, it's anyone, it's daycare workers, and it's anyone working with children. And what we're hearing is if you are a teaching artist and you go in and say, I am a teaching artist educator, that there is a very good likelihood that you will get a vaccine. I want to be clear, we're not interested in bumping the line here, but if you're a teaching artist who works with young people in the K through 12 space, that is an opportunity for you there, as we are hearing from our stakeholders and our partners. The other piece is, I think many people know, but you can pre-register. And this is, I think, a point where I just want to remind us, right? Like the arts and cultural sector will not be able to fully reopen until we've hit sort of a threshold of vaccination and herd immunity, and that we've seen cases go down. So this might be a thing that you want to talk with your organization's marketing team about, is how do we promote vaccine distribution and getting folks to get their vaccines for our audience members, and making the case to say, look, we're not going to be able to fully reopen until vaccine rates and cases of COVID have gone down. Do your part. Like, here's some information. That I think that might be another way that we can sort of remind people about our place in this whole ecosystem and our responsibility to take care of communities. Next, public school reopenings. So on Monday, public schools are required to reopen. And then on April 28th, middle schools are required to reopen. Just want to note this because, this is again, another sort of mile marker in our state's reopening. Because many of us work as teaching artists or engage with public schools, I'm putting that on our agenda for today. Now I want to talk about the legislature. So we've got a couple of updates. We expect we expect in the middle of April, House Ways and Means will release their version of the budget. And as you know, their version of the budget will very much be different than Governor Baker's proposal. And then after they release, House Ways and Means releases their version of the budget, members will have the opportunity to submit amendments to that budget. And then we expect House debate will start up the week of the 26th. So save the date in your inbox. You can expect from Mass Creative a nice, hearty, detailed advocacy alert, if we need to, asking you to urge your legislator to support an amendment to increase the Mass Cultural Council budget. We will do that if the House Ways and Means version comes out at less than 20 million. If the House Ways and Means budget version comes out at 20 or more, you can expect an email in your inbox urging you to very quickly and joyfully thank your legislators for supporting a stronger creative community in Massachusetts. Next, this is really cool. This is big news. So the co-chairs, Chair Fiola and Chair Kennedy, are going to be hosting, and the committee will be hosting an industry impact hearing on April 9th. So this is an invite-only hearing, so you won't be able to sign up to testify as you can with other hearings. But this is an opportunity for the committee to hear about the various industries and sectors that fall within tourism, arts and cultural development industries and sectors, to hear about the issues facing our industries over the last year and then what's needed for recovery. So Mass Creative, as well as the Mass Cultural Council and Mass Humanities and the Mass Live Events Coalition have all been invited to testify at this hearing, and there are going to be other groups, but those are the ones that we know about right now. And this is where I need your help. So Mass Creative only works because we are able to coalesce and work with all of you for a united, stronger message and a stronger voice for arts and cultural advocacy. And so again, as I think I've said before, well, I'm sure I'm charming and reasonably convincing to some, our argument and my work is much stronger when I'm able to really have the backing of the arts and cultural community when I'm testifying. And so for that, I'm looking for your help. I'd really like to be able to include some very brief quotes from arts and cultural organizations and creative workers and artists to give about what the last year has been like and what your specific needs are for reopening. When I say short, I really mean like one line or two. You can email me those quotes. You can also let me know if you'd like me to anonymize them, or if it's okay for me to fully attribute the quote to your organization or you as the individual. The other piece is that there's going to be an opportunity for you to submit testimony. So while you can't speak at the hearing, you will be able to submit testimony. And this is a really great tool. This is also part of our advocacy work. And it's true. Committees do read testimony and consider testimony that's submitted. So we'll have more details about how that process is going to work, and some talking points or some suggestions about how you can craft a successful piece of testimony to submit. We are really lucky that we've got two chairs who get these issues and are really passionate about supporting and advancing and our needs in this moment. And so we want to do everything we can to help them and help the committee with that work. Next, this is a save the date. We've got a lot of save the dates today. So this one is the 2021 Poetic State Address to the Nation. This is a project that Mass Creative is working with the U.S. Department of Arts and Culture and the Theater Offensive, which is located here in Boston. So there were story circles in March where folks within the creative community could talk about what are the needs and what are the value of arts and culture. And then artists will take those story circles and interpret them into performances that will be part of the 2021 Poetic Address to the Nation. That's going to be on April 22nd at 7 p.m. It will be a virtual event, and we heartily encourage you to join us. Then finally, a reminder, I said this already, but United Advocacy works. We've seen it work over the last year. The money that we've been able to get invested in terms of the Massachusetts Arts and Cultural Recovery is due to all of you. It's due to all of us at the same time sharing our needs and reminding lawmakers and frankly our neighbors and our networks about why arts and culture matters and matters to the quality of life, to our economic value, and to connecting people to themselves and to their communities. And Mass Creative is here for that work. We are down and we're ready to be a part of that work. But we need your help in a couple of different ways. And one of those is by becoming a member of Mass Creative. So if you may have seen a reminder note to renew your membership. If you haven't yet, please do. I heartily encourage you to do so. If you have, I thank you joyfully and fully. And if you are not a member, but you'd like to become a member, now's the time. What are you waiting for? One of the things that's really helpful is that when we go in to talk with elected officials, if I can say there are 400 plus member organizations of Mass Creative, that's a pretty important piece of my story and legitimacy for Mass Creative. So it really does matter on a couple of different levels. And I thank you. And then finally, April 16th will be our next virtual policy and action update. In the meantime, if you have questions or you have things you want to share with me, feel free to do so. My email is already in the chat. It's also on our website, but we are down for it. Thank you so much for joining us today. It, as always, is a pleasure. Have great weekends and get outside. All right.